Yes, sir.
Good afternoon to all of you. I am Dipendu Roy. I am the Secretary of the Sustainability Standard Boards of the Institute. Today we are having an, an auspicious day of International Yoga Day. And with this, we are hosting our 11th webinar of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam series. And we are happy that two women has represented today from two different continents. And with this, we start the Institute's anthem as an inauguration. We do in all our webinars. And then we will start with the main program. So starting with the session, we have a kind presence of Vidya Power Madam, who is deliberating on the session of Yoga, the sustainable way of visualizing life. Madam is a dedicated practicing company secretary with prior experience of 15 years at the esteemed law firm Fox Mandal and Associates, Bengaluru. She worked till April 2024. After that, she relocated to London and she is staying and she is taking the session from London. Madam has immense knowledge and experience in dealing with matters relating to company law, Foreign Exchange Management Act, legal due diligence, transaction documents, joint ventures, foreign collaborations, merger and acquisitions, inbound and outbound investment, advisory services with insolvency and bankruptcy code, non-banking financial companies, branch and liaison offices, foreign direct investment, external commercial borrowings, overseas direct investment, compounding of offenses, corporate restructuring activities, and many others. She is also having yoga as her passion, and she has won numerous state and national level prizes during her school and college days. She also started resuming her practicing yoga in 2020 and has become an integral part of her daily routine, contributing to her overall fitness and well-being. With this, I request Madam to start today's session.
Yeah. Thank you so much, sir. Am I audible to everyone?
Yes, sir.
My screen is visible.
Madam, you have to share your screen.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Bear with me.
yeah, it is coming.
Is this visible?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone, and a very happy International Yoga Day. I'm honored to speak on this wonderful occasion dedicated to such a meaningful cause. Yoga, which signifies unity, is perfectly reflected in our gathering today. I extend my heartfelt thanks to Mr. Ranjit Krishnan and Mr. Dibendra Roy and the entire team of the Sustainability Standard Board of Institute of Cost Accountants of India for this opportunity of being a speaker at the 11th webinar of the International Yoga edition of the Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. So this is the 11th edition. Once again, congratulations to the entire team. So let's celebrate the spirit of yoga and unity together. So the topic for today is yoga, the sustainable way of visualizing life. So my presentation explores the harmonious relationship between yoga and sustainability, demonstrating how these practices can foster individual well-being for a more sustainable future. So the presentation is by me, Vidya Pawar, as mentioned by Dibendra Roy sir. So once again, thank you. So I would just like to place on record the memories with the address given by our Honorable Prime Minister at the last International Yoga Day, which was held at the UN headquarters at New York. So I was deeply moved and inspired by his address on that occasion. So today, I am pleased to share some of the key points from his remarkable speech with you. So here are they. So let me start with a matter of pride. Being Indians, yoga originates from India. So yoga belongs to us. So it's our treasure, it's our asset. Yoga is an ancient tradition, but is living and dynamic. Yoga is a way of life. Yoga is free from copyrights, patents, royalty payments. Yoga is adaptable to everyone, irrespective of caste, creed, religion, age, sex, etc. Anybody can do yoga, irrespective of their status. Yoga is flexible. So when I say yoga is flexible, so it can be practiced on our own or under the instruction of a tutor, and also can be done anytime, anywhere. So I've been talking about sustainability. So sustainability is rapidly going viral. Okay, it's gaining recognition and has become the essential in our lives. You might have heard about ESG, right? Like when I say ESG, it is environmental, social, and governance has now become a hot topic, frequently discussed in various articles and presentations across various forums. Why it is so? Like we all know that our resources are depleting, lives are at risk from unforeseen events, greenery is diminishing, water scarcity is escalating, and summers are unbearably hot and winters are almost disappearing. So this urgent situation demands our immediate attention and action. So that's how I say that it's a time to plan, integrate, and make tangible progress in the sustainability commitments of every aspects of life. Sustainability has become the need of the hour to address the situation, what I just mentioned. So I would urge each one of us, including me, to embark on a journey of self-discovery and sustainable well-being through the ancient practice of yoga, as yoga is the best insurance of life policy. So how it becomes the best insurance of life policy, we'll get to know in the upcoming slides. So I'm going to give you one secret. We all love friends, right? Friends are near ones. So they are there and they help us to stand and bounce back at any situation. We all love friends. So I'm going to give you one secret today. A new friend. I'm introducing a new friend. By holding the body in a series of yoga postures that stretch and strengthen your muscles, loosen your joints, focus your breathing, and tone your internal organs, you will find a new friend in your body. Who is that new friend? What is that new friend going to do with you? We'll get to know in the upcoming slides. So as I mentioned, the topic today is sustainability. And even this is being initiated by the Sustainability Standard Board of the Institute of Cost Accountants of India. So I should be talking more and more about sustainability. So when I emphasizing it, it's important to understand the meaning of it. So let's explore what it means and how yoga offers a sustainable way of life. So the word sustainability is derived from the Latin word sustina, which literally means to hold up something which is sustainable. If I say something which is sustainable, it means that if it endures or persists or holds up over time. So yoga is indeed a sustainable way of visualizing life. Why I say so? Because it is based on the three main principles, which are mindfulness, balance, and interconnectedness. They form the basis of sustainability, and these are derived from yoga. So let's explore more. So when I say mindfulness, what it is, yoga cultivates the mindfulness. When I say cultivating mindfulness means it basically allows us to be aware of our thoughts, our emotions, our actions, so that we promote choosing the conscious choices. Choice can be for anything, maybe for our life, for our living, for anything. Second one, the second important principle is balance. So yoga emphasizes balance. What does this mean, balance? So balance between the physical and the mental health. So basically it promotes a sense of harmony between our internal and external worlds. So last, very important, interconnectedness. So interconnectedness will be repeated in almost all the slides because there is a deep attachment between interconnectedness and yoga. So we'll get to know more about it. See, I'm not telling anything new which you don't know. So I'm just refreshing the knowledge what you have. Maybe I'm just making it more clear the areas or the aspects of yoga which are making our life a sustainable life. Yeah, coming back to interconnectedness. Yoga fosters deep understanding of the interconnectedness of all things, reminding us that our actions have consequences for ourselves and the planet. Okay, let's now venture to understand few fundamentals of yoga, having understood what is sustainability and how yoga is connected to sustainability. Okay. So there are different types of yoga. We all have heard about it. So I have just given here the table of just giving the different types of yogas and what do they mean, what do they emphasize on. So let me go with the first one, Hatha Yoga. Basically, it works under the assumption that the supreme control over the body or the physical self is the one path to enlightenment. See, these all forms of yoga ultimately lead to enlightenment. Like, what is the focus about? So, what aspects are being focused? So, that forms or that gives rise to different types of yoga. So, when I continue, the second one is Raja Yoga. As the name suggests, it's the royal path to know your mind and know the universe. So basically, emphasis here is on the control of the intellect, again, to attain enlightenment. Next is Karma Yoga or Kriya Yoga. Karma, we all know karma is nothing but the action or the activities, what we do. So basically, it helps us to quiet our mind through the spiritual actions, studies, breathing techniques, and mantras and meditation. Bhakti Yoga. So basically, here, heart is given the emphasis. Heart is the focus here. So basically, it is cultivated as the primary way to achieve the unity with the divine. So then something called as there is Dhyana Yoga also. Here, the emphasis here is the techniques or the practices under this yoga helps us to deeply inquire into ourselves through what? Through questioning, meditation, and other breathing techniques. So there are other aspects also like Tantra, Mantra, and Kundalini Yoga. So here, this involves Tantra basically involves the studies of sacred writings and rituals. Mantra Yoga is the study of sacred sounds. So these studies again help us to connect us with our inner self in a different ways. And Kundalini Yoga is the study of Kundalini movement along the spine, which is released through breath and specific Hatha Yoga movements. So we all know that the Hatha Yoga was made famous, or it was made prominent by BKS Iyengar. Yeah. So he has brought the specialities of Hatha Yoga because Hatha Yoga plays a vital role in all the other types of yoga. Basically, Ha means sun and Ta means moon. So Hatha Yoga is nothing but the combining of complementary forces of both sun and the moon. So we all know that our spine, our spine is the grand central station of our body. Yeah, we all know that, right? If it is stretched, loosened, and aligned by yoga. So spine gets stretched, loosened, and aligned by yoga. Postures, many of the postures are designed to allow energy to freely flow through the spine and the entire body. Basically, it flows through the spine and to the entire body. Many holistic health practitioners and traditional practitioners believe that, and they also argue that, if the spine is aligned, the entire body works better, feels better, and fights diseases more effectively. Isn't it effective? So isn't it we should move one step ahead to inculcate the fundamentals of yoga in our daily lives? Yes, we should. Yeah, here it is. So how to start with? I know most of you are doing yogas and most of you are the I can say yoga experts. I'm not a yoga expert, but yes, I proudly say that I'm a yoga practitioner, and I might have the audience from the participants, many yoga specialists, many yogis who know much more than me. And it's basically just to relearn or just to recapitulate and cherish the memories of the effects and the impacts into our daily lives. So let's start. So learn the foundational elements of yoga, including the postures. When I say yoga, basically there are three things there: asanas, and breathing techniques, and pranayama, which is also called as pranayama, and meditation. So mastering these fundamentals forms the basis for a fulfilling yoga practice. Okay, how do we start with? Okay, so when I say postures, basically it's variety of poses designed to improve the flexibility, strength, and balance. Each posture has specific benefits and alignment guidelines. So breathing techniques. So conscious breathing exercises that helps regulate the nervous system, reduce stress, and enhance energy flow. About the stress, I'll be dealing more in the upcoming slides. And meditation is nothing but the practice of cultivating mindfulness and inner stillness through focused attention and awareness. So let's proceed further. When I say the yoga helps us to connect the mind and the body, so how it happens? So yoga recognizes the profound connection between the mind and body. How it does? It happens through the physical postures and breathing. So through these, one can learn to influence our thoughts, emotions, and overall well-being. So the further outcomes of this mind-body connection are like there is a space where there is no stress or there is a reduced stress. Yoga's calming techniques help alleviate stress and promote sense of relaxation. Second one, emotional regulation. So emotional regulation is also one of the important outcome of yoga, where we will enhance our ability to manage our emotions effectively. Then third, improve focus. We can enhance our focus, we can improve our focus. When the focus is focused, then yes, we all know that we can do many things in our lives. The next, enhanced body awareness. Yoga encourages listening to our body and fostering a greater understanding of its needs and limitations. Yeah. So please note, yoga tones our organs. So we all know that. But yeah, let's remember it and make it. In fact, I would say let's memorize it. Like yoga tones our organs and improves our postures, frees our breathing and cleansing, and it also changes the attitude of our body to the better. Yeah. So this is how we go towards the physical well-being. So it offers a holistic approach to physical well-being, encompassing strength, flexibility, balance, and injury prevention. So how does that happen? Yeah, so the postures basically helps to increase our strength and also the flexibility and balance. We keep enhancing our balance between the emotions, balance between the work life, balance between the good and bad, balance between the best and the worst. So we will know to take the decisions accordingly with the constant practice of yoga. So next, injury prevention. So injury prevention basically happens because we continue to grow focused and we continue to make very the thoughtful choices, and also it helps us in alignment, and the proper posture helps to prevent injuries and supports healthy movement patterns. So injuries in the sense it can be in the form of the illness also. So the latest slides covered, like with the help of few basic asanas, we can get rid of some pains which have become part of our life. So again, I highlight here that the yoga is a way of life. It's a way to mindfulness. It's a way to think fruitful thoughts, actions, and also a means to live in harmony with self, others, and with nature. So let's integrate yoga into our daily life. So before that, let's understand how it helps for mental and emotional health. Yoga offers powerful tools for managing stress, cultivating mindfulness, and promoting emotional well-being. So other things, again, as I mentioned already, stress management, mindfulness cultivation, and emotional resilience. Like when I say resilience, what do you understand by resilience? It's basically the capacity to recover or withstand the difficulties more quickly. So we develop these muscles through practice of yoga. So it's time to inculcate these habits into our daily life. Again, going ahead, understanding the spiritual dimension of yoga. So when I talk about spiritual dimension, basically yoga encourages a deep connection with our inner self, fostering a sense of peace, purpose, and interconnectedness. So how does it happen? So it enhances self-awareness. So with that, what will happen? Which will allow us to understand our thoughts, emotions, and motivations better and move in the right direction and take the right decisions in the right time. So inner peace, which is very important, which is almost missing in everyone's lives. So yoga's calming techniques and mindfulness practices cultivate a sense of inner peace and tranquility. So basically, very important aspect. It helps us to understand the purpose and meaning of life. So I would like to take a moment here just to talk about the stress. Yeah, see, stress has become the integral part of our daily life, and stress is causing or disrupting the sustainable way of our life. Yeah. So we all have a specific way to deal with stress, right? I would call it as a fight or flight response. What does this mean? So when there is a situation of stress, what do? So we fight with greater energy or strength, or we get out of it as fast as possible. This is called as fight or flight response. So this happens because when we are confronted with a stressful situation, our adrenaline gland starts pumping, muscles get tensed, and senses rise up high. So that's how we get into this fight or flight response. Friends, remember, if this response is engaged, if this response is engaged more frequently, then what will happen? Then it will force our body and mind to the elevated state of stimulations, due to which we may collapse, we may break down, we may fall sick, we may lose communication, we may lose focus. So in a world of fight or flight response, yoga is like a daily, I can say daily spa. So maybe those who visit spa, they can connect it better. Just to put it very short. So basically, with the yoga, even though the stressful situation is, it basically helps us to give a cooling effect and the relaxed mind and calmness throughout. And it because we get control of our senses and we can direct to operate our senses in a more powerful way to deal with the situation rather than getting into the fight or flight response. So by delay, let's integrate this yoga again. I'm urging again to integrate this into our daily life. How do I do that? Yes, basic. With the very basic steps, you just set the realistic goals for yourselves. Start with the short sessions and gradually increase the duration and frequency as you comfort. So find suitable practice space for yourself and explore different styles. Maybe you can enroll the yoga classes, or you can do on your own, provided you know the methodologies of it. So this is how you can start yoga. Yeah. So let's start with the further slides. As we all know, the sustainable benefits of yoga are huge. So it's not just one day's journey, it's a lifelong journey of the self-discovery, offering continuous growth, sustainable well-being. So let's embrace the transformative power of yoga and experience its profound benefits for our body, mind, and spirit. So yoga causes these benefits to all of us. So I have just put it in one slide, like how it gives the benefits to our physical, mental, spiritual well-being. Am I audible?
Yes, madam. Yes, madam.
Yeah, thank you so much. So let's move. So sustainability in individual life. Yes, we all have now seen how the yoga is causing the sustainability uh, in the individual life, and how important it is to cause a sustainability in the individual life, so that we can cause that sustainability in the corporate life also. So let's see what it is. So yoga helps in cultivating the mindful habits. How the sustainability in individual life leads us to the sustainability life outside. So this is how it happens. So yoga encourages mindful consumption, prompting us to consider the environmental impact and makes us prioritize our sustainable options. It also inculcates the habit of reducing the waste. Yoga practice helps us to be with a sense of gratitude and contentment, and reducing the desire for excessive material possessions and fostering the waste management. So the next is conservation. It's very important. Yoga's emphasis on interconnectedness. Yoga's emphasis on interconnectedness inspire us to conserve resources, minimize our ecological footprint, and protect the natural world. Yeah. So now let's connect individual sustainability with the well-being of others and corporate life. As social beings, understanding this interconnectedness is vital for achieving the overall sustainability. Yeah, how can we align the business practices with yogic values? Yes, it happens, it is possible. Yes, this is how it does. Basically, I would just like to highlight here it happens through ethical sourcing, employee well-being, and environmental responsibility. So these values get inculcated in the individuals leading the corporates. And when I say corporates, it involves the shareholders and the stakeholders. So these values get spread to each and every one. So this is how yoga helps us to bring the sustainability not only in the inner world as well in the outer world. So, what's the ripple effect spreading sustainability through yoga? So, here it is. So, we end up having the environmental awareness, and we end up having the social responsibility, and also we end up having the peace and harmony. Okay, so let's proceed further. As I say, having understood the benefits of yoga and how it can be considered as a way to a sustainable life, it's time to embrace yoga's transformative power for a sustainable future. How do we do that? So it can be done by integrating yoga principles into our individual lives and corporate practices. So with that, we can create a sustainable and fulfilling future for ourselves and our generations to come. So I would urge, let us use the power of yoga to be healthy, happy for us, and also to be kind to ourselves and also to others. Let's build the bridges of friendship, a peaceful world, and a cleaner and a sustainable future. So let us all join hands together to realize the goal of one earth, one family, and one future. Friends, now I'm nearing to the last slides of the sessions. Very, very important. Yeah, in our hectic lives, uh, pain has become a constant companion, right? So making us feel we are on a roller coaster. So like we take excuses basis the pains. So I would like to highlight a few asanas that can elevate, that can help us alleviate pain and bring more smiles into our lives. Yeah. So let's go towards the last slides of the today's session, yoga and healing. Very, very important. Yeah. The first one I would like to talk about the back pain. So back pain again is very common because of the long working hours. It's not just associated with any age, it's common for all the age groups. So how do I get rid of it? Yeah. See, again, I would like to highlight here that yoga is definitely a one-stop solution for all the problems. But the problems cannot be resolved only through yoga. There are some other practices, other medication, other things to be done. So when we do the medication and other things along with the practice of yoga, so the power of getting better is much faster. So let's understand this, the value of yoga to our well-being. So coming back to the very normal and the common pain which everyone faces today is back pain. So that can be reduced over a period of time to the constant practices of the cobra pose, which is on your left side, and the other one is boat pose. So there are many other asanas too which will help, and definitely I'm sure you must be going to the various classes where you have been advised to do a particular set of yoga, a particular set of poses. Yes, you do practice that. So out of my personal experience, what I have paused for myself, I'm sharing it here. So I have been relieved to a greater extent from the back pain through the constant practice of cobra pose. Basically, you have to practice the methodologies of inhaling and exhaling your breathing when you do the exercise, and that's the very important tip and technique of practicing yoga. If you do it in an order in which it is specified, then you can reap the benefits of yoga. Okay, so just to highlight here, when I say the cobra pose, you have to inhale and lift your forehead first, and then your chin, and then your shoulders, and then your chest off the floor. So keep your hips pressed against the floor and be in that posture to the time till the time you feel comfortable. Yeah. and let this cobra pose be one of the must pose in your routine. So the next is the boat pose. As the name itself mentions, the body takes the posture of a boat. So this also helps drastically in reducing the your back pain. So let's go to the very important the pain which we all feel and which we very commonly complain about, right? Like headache. For anything and everything, we get headache. Of course, we don't know the reasons, but we know the fact that yes, we get headache. Maybe when we are in office, we get more headache. When there is a stressful situation, the headache is more. Yeah, the headache takes its space depending upon the situation where we are in. But don't worry, you have a solution for it also. So the first, there are many other solutions like I have just highlighted here, the important ones. The Om exhalation that helps tremendously to reduce your headache. So there is a mechanism, there is a methodology to do this Omkar chanting. Basically, it will happen in the phases and you have to follow those phases. So maybe we can just practice in today's session 1 or 2 times. Maybe if you are having a headache, yes, and I'm sure that will be relieved of this pain at least for now. Yeah, so inhale deeply. Okay, inhale deeply. Feel that the breath and the air is flowing throughout entire your body. So when you inhale deeply and then open your lips and start chanting O. The sound O should be for 20 seconds and M for about 10 seconds. Yeah, feel as if the entire being is enveloped in this sound. Yeah, so let's do that. Are you all ready? Yeah, take a deep breath. Open your lips, start chanting Om. Om. Let's do it again. Om. Yes, this is Om exhalation. I would request you to add this also in your daily routine. This helps tremendously. Next is Kapalbhati. We all know how the Kapalbhati happens. It's basically you have to take out your. It's all about inhaling and exhaling, but exhaling has to be done with a more force. Okay, so when you exhale, you feel that your diaphragm muscle navels inside. So that should be the effect when you do the inhaling and exhaling, and you have to take a pause between the inhale and the exhale. The concentration is you have to exhale with the equal force, pushing the air out as you do it. Yeah, so let's do 5 to 6 Kapalbhati. This is also one of the important um, the asana, important breathing technique, important the practice which gives you relief from the headache. So the next is Bastrika. We all know that even Bastrika helps to a greater extent. So we all know we have all maybe practicing on daily basis. I would request you to practice more and more. Maybe you can dedicate about 5 to 10 minutes for these 4 exercises: Om exhalation, the Kapalbhati, Bhastrika. Bhastrika is basically exhaling deeply and sharply. Okay, inhaling happens on its own, it is inhaling happens on its own, exhaling deeply and sharply. The focus is on exhaling. The force and the deepness and the sharpness should be there on the exhaling. I'll just show two um, routines or two rounds of it. When you do exhaling, bring your hands up. Exhaling has to be done deeply and sharply. So this has to be repeated minimum 15 to 20 times every day. Minimum 15 to 20 times every day. You feel fresh. So there is complete relaxation in your mind. So that when the mind gets relaxed from the stress, automatically the headache is gone. Yeah. And there's one more thing which is a part of this ailment, which is Shitali. Basically, you do that with your tongue. So you can make your tongue in a tube shape. If you can't make it, maybe you can just bring it out and take the air as if you are swimming through the straw. Okay, you have to take it inside, then take the tongue inside. When you see, the tongue should be outside when you inhale. Then the tongue, take the tongue inside, breathe for a while, hold your breath and feel, make your body, your mind, your face, your soul relaxed in that time when you take your tongue inside. So this also helps abundantly in reducing your the headache. Yeah. So there are other asanas also which will help for the digestion. Basically, the forward bending and the backward bending asanas help a lot to improve your digestion system. So once the digestion system is improved, definitely many more benefits will come automatically. Even you can deal with the arthritis. Arthritis can be dealt through some vinyasa routines. Like when I say vinyasa routines, you can see those kind of routines in the asanas like Setu Bandha Sarvangasana or the bridge pose or the pranayama is also very helpful for this to come out of this arthritis. Yeah. So there are other techniques also, even if the eyes get strained because the system time is more, it's basically common for the students and as well as for the housewives or the office goers, everyone. So basically very, very simple exercise. Just keep your thumb like this. Yeah. So when you keep your thumb like this, concentrate on your thumb and follow your thumb up, down, right, left, and in circles. Yeah, so this you can do anytime. So there is no specific time for this. So whenever you get strained, you can practice this. And once you practice, you will know the benefit of it. So yeah, I don't have to say more. Okay. And even we have heard that AIDS, so AIDS virus which attacks the immune system. So basically, Hatha Yoga and Pranayama can be of much helpful for this uh, illness. Yeah, we can come out of this. So I would just like to conclude with a wish that Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha, Sarve Santu Niravaya. So I would like to conclude with a wish. This is a wish. When I say Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha, Sarve Santu Niravaya, it means may everyone be happy and may everyone be healthy. So I would like to express my heartfelt thanks to the Institute of Cost Accountants for organizing this session. Your efforts are truly appreciated. A big thank you to all the participants for your time and attentive listening. So as we conclude, so remember that everyone who practices yoga is a yogi. So there is no a specific definition. There is no specific time frame. There is no specific way. So we can do the yoga in a way we want. See, when I say something about yoga, so it may be, it's for those who are not practicing yoga or where yoga is not one of the activity in one's lives. And I'm addressing to those. So you will not realize these benefits unless you practice it. So once you practice it, you will know the much more benefits of yoga. So slowly, you will start seeing the benefits to your lives. So when the benefit is there to your lives, automatically it causes the impact, it gives the effect. The immediate effect or the immediate impact will be on you. So when the impact is on you, so you will pass on to this your family. So when it starts spreads to the family, all the family members will become part of it. So from one family to other family, so from the family to the societies, from the societies to the state, and states to the countries, and that's how the yoga has become worldwide famous. Yes, and it's really a matter of pride to all of us that yes, yoga is there in the world. Yoga is celebrated on this day as International Yoga Day, but we have laid the foundation for this yoga. So I feel proud, I feel honored to be an Indian. And whenever, so being in London, I keep hearing yoga sessions, the importance of controlling our senses, the importance of uh, directing our behavior, the importance of controlling our emotions, the importance of addressing the situations in the corporate life. Yes, yoga forms the basis. Yoga forms the basis not only for the office goers, it also for everybody, be it a singer, be it an athlete, be it a homemaker, be it office goer, anybody, everybody. It's adaptable to each one, be a kid, be an elder, be a mid-age, be a student, whoever you are. So it has tremendous effects. It has helped in a holistic way for the overall well-being of oneself, along with oneself, with others. That's the power of yoga. So thank you so much. Thank you, one and all. Thanks a lot for giving me this opportunity. I'm happy to address the questions, if any, from anyone.
Yes, ma'am. There are a few questions you can
Yeah.
see in the chat box. I think two questions we have already received. I think the first question is, can we do Cobra pose for lower back pain? One question from a member. I think,
See, the lower back pain, it's not that advisable. Lower back pain. Generally, lower back pain, it's not advisable. Again, see the lower back pain, in what state it is. If it is too severe, yeah, you're not supposed to do the yoga pose. If it is too severe. So you, and it's very important thing which I must mention before you take up anything, especially for treating your illness. I would please suggest you to take your doctor's advice before venturing into that. Even if your yoga tutor says so, but I would request you to take the doctor's advice so that you can practice it accordingly. Just get a green signal from your the family doctor or whoever is treating you before taking up anything. Yeah.
yeah, ma'am. Thank you. Another question. A member has stated that I have just started doing yoga, especially Surya Namaskar, for the past 1 month, occasionally feeling pain in knee. Will it go away if I correct my pose?
Yeah. See, basically, anything when you introduce newly, the pain is part of it. Yeah, because your body is not used to it, and for some it may take lesser time to adjust with it, or some it may take longer time. So just keep a watch. Keep a watch. Ideally, I can say that 20 to 25 days is the ideal time to get along with it. But if your pain continuously triggers even after doing that yoga, then it's time to see or consult your doctor.
Yes, ma'am. Another question is that whether any terminal disease like cancer and any other terminal disease, can it be cured through yoga?
See, we have read, and if you refer the BK Iyengar's books, it was very confidently mentioned, and also there are cases who have cured the cancer even in the advanced stage. Yeah, so miracles can happen. It's see, basically it helps us to build our inner strength, build our the positivity, build our the energy, the flexibility, or the focus to deal with the situation. So there is nothing beyond our own strength, our own energy, right? Our own inner strength. The more we are confident, the more we are energetic, the more we are strong. So we can deal with anything and everything. But we have cases, and we have heard, and I have also read in BKS Iyengar's book that even the cancer patients have been cured with the some specific practices of yoga. And if you see in all the cancer centers, there is one yoga session that's a must. Like it happens generally in all the cancer centers if you have come across. Yeah. Any other questions for me? Ma'am, anything is change my mind by yoga. Definitely. So I have been talking about the mindful cultivation. So basically, when you start doing yoga, I would request you to start with a tutor so that you will know the methods and you will know the means, you will know the specific ways of doing it. So yoga has to be started with the breathing has to be controlled and the movements have to be watched. So if you do in that methodology, definitely you will enhance your focus. When you enhance your focus, that attentiveness will come on its own. When the attentiveness is there, obviously you will start making the conscious choices. When I say conscious choices, maybe in your studies, maybe in your profession, maybe in your job, anyway. Yeah, and you will start thinking positively. And as I was mentioning you that you will visit a new friend. So a new friend is something like you will get one constant inner voice. Okay, so that inner voice is such that it keeps leading you to the positive ways, the ways of meaningful thoughts, the way for showing you the happy and healthier life, and to get relieved from the pain. Yes, you can change your mind. See, you definitely you can come out of your distractions because you will get control over your senses. That I'm very, very sure. Getting the control over the senses is the biggest victory. So with that victory, you can achieve anything and everything.
Thank you, madam. I think there are no further questions, and I I profusely thank madam for your today's session. You have explained in a nutshell the importance of yoga, and we and the practical exercises which we have given would be useful for each and every professional to do it in his or her day-to-day activities. And I think yoga is also a state of mind. I think that mindset has also to be changed, and we can have not only yoga, we should have our food intake also should be in such a way that we should have a balanced life. With this, we close our first session of this today's International Yoga Days first session. And now we welcome our second speaker. We have with us CMA Shivangani Praful Rajpopat. She is our next speaker. She would be deliberating on setting up sustainability governance, sustainability governance in companies. And to just brief about her, she's a company secretary, law graduate, and cost accountant with more than 20 years of experience, primarily in corporate secretarial and governance domain. She has worked in large listed companies including Aptech, JB Chemicals, Reliance Infrastructure, Chrysil, Tata Capital. Currently, she is the general manager of corporate secretarial Apraava Renewable Energy, which has about 3.5 gigawatts of installed operational power generation and transmission assets, heading their secretarial practice, governance, and compliance. In her professional career, she has handled variety of corporate actions, including IPOs, equity and debt, buybacks, bonus, preferential right issues, ESOPs, and several restructuring, merger and acquisition transactions. Also, in the academia, she has been a faculty for our ICSI, and she is also a visiting faculty of many coaching institutes in Mumbai. She has also has many students who are pursuing of various professional courses. She is also currently the board of studies in Mithibai College, which is a premier educational institution in Mumbai. as an industry expert on the board of studies in accountancy, BCom and BCom honors for last 3 years. She has authored numerous technical and non-technical thematic articles for ICSI's National Publication Chartered Secretary and CMA's National Publications Management Accountant. With this brief introduction, I request Madam to take over the session. Over to you, Madam.
Thank you so much, Dibendu. Am I audible to
Yes,
everyone?
yes, audible, Madam.
Thank you so much. And that was hardly brief introduction, Dibendu. It was quite longish, but thank you very much for that. And I am really glad to be joining and addressing this webinar. I believe the Cost and Management Institute's really important initiative of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, and fueling that through these webinars is a very important initiative, and I'm glad to be part of it. I'll be just sharing my screen. I do let me know if it is visible, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Is it visible?
Yes, ma'am. You can go ahead.
Sure. Thank you very much. So the topic that I'm covering today is basically establishing sustainability governance in companies, like Dibendu pointed out just now. I have been part of the governance spectrum in various listed and high value debt listed entities for a very long time. And since qualifying as a cost accountant and a CS, over the past so many years, I have seen a lot of change in the governance structure, especially around sustainability. And I thought it would be worthwhile to share some takeaways that I've had in understanding from my experience why sustainability has become very important of late, and what will it take for us and our current generation of professionals to pass over a sustainable planet to our coming generations. So what I'll be briefly covering today will be, we should obviously start with why we are discussing this, what sustainability is, how did it become a buzzword really, whether it is a governance oriented subject or is it becoming more of a compliance requirement as businesses want to grow. What are model sustainability governance structures, some case studies, and how can you make a start? And I'll share my final thoughts at the end of the discussion. So beginning with our agenda and start with why. So honestly, let me tell you, this is not an adage that I have coined. I follow a speaker called Simon Sinek. He's an established English American author, and he does a lot of talking on many incisive topics and makes you think a lot on the purpose of organizations globally. So typically all the organizations that you will find in the world today, they would know what they do. For instance, I mean, uh, we make steel, but if you have realized what is Tata Steel's adage, it says we also make steel. So what is something that is the underlying factor that all the organizations know what they do? How they do, most organizations and most employees in large organizations would know, unless you have a startup somewhere and you have started it on your own, and kind of decided the purpose of your organization. The others would only know how this is done. But the main reasons why organizations exist is to determine why they exist. Like each of us have to find a purpose in life. Most organizations, if they are purpose driven, tend to be sustainable, tend to exist over a longer period of time. So there is a lot of buzz around, purpose, vision, mission, values, and finding out the reason to exist. But HR leaders have over the years, struggled to communicate why they exist. What is it that the organization stands for? So for example, when we talk about the Tata Group, you will find, if you, I have worked with Tata Capital, and so I can say that you wouldn't find a vision statement there. They talk about their mission and they talk about their purpose. And what is the purpose of Tata Group? It's simply three words called leadership with trust. So everything, therefore, they do culminates into making sure that when they reach out to their ultimate customer, it's talking about trust. So the good idea to begin with, when you want to study anything or you want to especially talk on a very large and a wide topic like sustainability, is to discuss the why and not the what or the how. So carrying forward to why. So I don't know if most of you have seen this very poignant documentary. It is on YouTube. It's called The Plastic Ocean. And it talks about how only within a century, less than a century of discovery of plastic, we have put in so much waste out there that ultimately through the food chain, the microplastics are entering back into our own bloodstreams. It's a very disturbing documentary, to say the least. And it's more disturbing because we know that we are the human race is the reason for that uh, degeneration, and how the karma has come back to bite us now because we are eating all of that microplastic ourselves. Again, another thing, I have pasted a picture here of what we see every year in our capital, the Delhi scene. And less than 1% of Earth today has safe levels of air pollution, means breathing worthy air is available only in 1% of the overall Earth's landmass, and the remaining 99% is all polluted. But this is only statistic, a lot of statistic here. A 20th century, in fact, has been the highest, has seen the fastest rise in the world temperatures. The average temperature of the planet in the last century increased by 1 degree Fahrenheit. If the trend continues by 2015, less than 30 years from today, that is nearly 25% of the species of the Earth would be extinct. And if GHGs are not reduced, the surface temperature can obviously raise by another few notches, but that few notches mean 3 to 5 degree Fahrenheit, which is a devastating number. If you can just see what's the cost it will have for us and how many invaluable lives we will lose on this slide that I'm showing you. But honestly, this is a very delicate stage where all of us are poised and sitting, because we are a developing country. Especially in India, you will see that there is a lot of challenge in terms of whether we vote for development or we vote for sustainability. And everybody has a lot of aspirations to move up, to move out, and to grow in life. With that aspiration, how can we really balance, the sustainability part is what we need to see. Uh, 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 Honestly, if we have to talk only about the non-economic part, it's quite scary, but even the economic part is very threatening. Climate change can push 100 million more people into poverty by 2030. Its cost to us, the annual GDP that the climate change is causing us to lose, is nearly around 5 to 20% of our global GDP. But if we were to take any action to save the planet, the global GDP that would be at stake would be only in the range of 1 to 2%. You are seeing that, or we are seeing rather, that heat waves are killing hundreds. In Mecca recently, we see around 900 pilgrims die. In the north, we are hearing every day a lot of damage happening. What does this do eventually? Heat waves do. What heat waves do is to reduce productivity. If you talk in economic terms, apart from the human life, which has no value, which you can't attribute a value to really. In terms of productivity, we have people working in remote locations, at plants, at sites. We have seen that, extreme heat waves is causing a lot of problem in their contribution to the work that they are doing. Many companies have started making different kind of shifts for the workers that are working with them. So you will see them working from early morning 7 to 11, and then taking a break and coming back to work at 4. So these are the types of adjustments that we have to do to make sure that the productivity is not impacted. Again, when we talk about hurricanes, cyclones, typhoons, they wipe away entire communities. Recently, if you have seen the videos of Sikkim flood that are floating on the internet, there is a huge amount of loss that is happening to the economy as such, and very precious livelihoods and very precious homes of people are being swept away. Not to talk about the droughts. So overall, if you see, the economic stability is also at stake because of the threat of climate change. So now what does it mean for us? What do we have to do? So this is the first report that the EU commissioned in 2017 on climate change through an economist. So earlier, all the climate change papers were being presented globally by all the environmentalists, but for the first time, the EU asked the World Bank's former chief economist Stern to report, and this is what he said, is that we need to invest the equivalent of 2% of global GDP to mitigate the impact of climate change. So this investment now, whether it can be done, this is a huge question. But if we have to survive, if we have to pass on a better world for our future generations to live in, not even better, a less deteriorated world. The necessity, they say, is the mother of invention. And so we will have to kind of start thinking on where we can, contain the effects of our growth and development aspirations. So if we don't look at the negatives, but we look at the positives, the World Commission on Economic and Climate in their report in 2018 said that if we were to adopt ambitious climate measures, we may end up generating profits of $26 billion by 2030 and creating 65 new jobs with low carbon emissions. Now, this is something positive to look up at. So, uh, which are the broad areas where we can, kind of invest going forward if we have to mitigate the challenges of climate change? We can invest first and foremost in clean energy systems. We are seeing a huge spike in demand for electricity. Just today, I read a report in Mint which says that for the month of June so far, that is only 20 days of June, there has been the highest ever consumption of electricity and power, especially starting with highest in the north and then followed by south and the west of India. So clean energy systems is obviously the way to go. The decarbonization of energy systems, if we couple it up with decentralized and digitized electrification, you would see the scheme that the central government has introduced for implementing smart meters across the country. We are seeing some kind of objections coming to it from certain quarters of the country, while the others are accepting. But it's a very healthy change to come, because it will give us the exact amount of energy that we are consuming, where we are over consuming, how we can manage it, how we can ensure that it is used only to the extent that is required and don't end up overusing our electrical fittings. So clean energy systems could give a billion more people access to modern energy services, and that is somewhere that a lot more investment can be attracted. Even if you listen to the speech that Narendra Modi gave after his election result, he used the word renewable energy, clean energy, electrical mobility, and all of this quite a few times, and which showed the economists sitting at CNBC and people like us that that seems to be a thrust area for the third term of his government. Moving to smarter urban developments. Now, this is one area of huge concern, because when we talk about urban development, how much urban development is really happening? Does anybody know? So that is one big question that we all got to answer. As per an estimate of the United Nations, uh, around 180,000 people migrate every day globally to cities, and what we would therefore need in, the OECD estimate says that by 2050 nearly 9 billion would be the world population, of which 70% would be in the cities. um, if you look at how the cities, metropolis, which globally are today, a lot of concentration of people, very unhygienic ways of living. The standard of living is extremely poor, and they contribute, all the metropolis in the world together contribute to 60% of the global GHG output. I'm not talking about in terms of percentage, I'm talking in absolute terms. The GHG highest contribution comes from only, today we have very limited number of cities compared to the rural area, and despite that, this is the kind of GHG that they take. They also take up nearly 75% of the energy produced. So you will see a lot of electrical usage coming from the urban areas, and these are all set to grow. That is something that we can't reverse given the pace of development that we are seeing. So then what do the cities really need? When we say smart urban development, how do we do it? One, it has to be very distributed, very focused. We have to set up a reliable and green mobility system. You are seeing metros coming up in most countries. In India, you are seeing a lot of planning that is happening on how the cities should develop. In fact, there was an ambitious program of the government of India called the Smart City Program, which somehow didn't find much traction, but that would have been the way to go. You have cities in certain parts of the world which are absolutely car free. They are smaller sects, satellite towns made near the larger cities, where you see the mobility happening only through, say, a cycle or an e-bike, and where people walk to work. These kind of initiatives are needed. In fact, and another very important area that cities would need would be a very, very good solid waste management program. So, these kind of practices can help smarter urban development. Some cities that I had just taken for reference, which have excellent practices, are like in Shanghai, they have nearly 1,200, services available to citizens on Citizen Cloud. So there is absolutely no need to go to any government office to get anything like we walk in, for Aadhaar and biometric and stuff like that. It doesn't happen there. In Seoul, they have autonomous patrol robots. You wouldn't find the traffic police. And like in Barcelona, they have the largest renewable-based diagonal transport system, which has minimized their usage of diesel and other fuel for transport. Moving to sustainable land use, of course, something that is happening is, very limited amount of land is available. Large dumping grounds are made. You'll see a lot of landfills, and surprisingly, despite all the innovation that we haven't seen enough number of patents coming out and innovation happening in how to recycle the solid waste. So every city should ideally have a solid waste management program, and strict forestry protection and sustainable farming methods. All of this, if practiced, can have an economic benefit of nearly USD $2 billion per year. And of course, not to emphasize more, but um, land is a very precious resource, very limited availability. So it is absolutely essential for us to consider how this can be used in a manner that is, enriching for future generations. With the increasing population, lesser land availability, our agricultural and farming practices have to evolve much more than they are today. So far as smart water management is concerned, there are areas you will find that there is a shortfall in fresh water availability. And by 2050, it is likely that they will be out of water. In fact, we see today in Bangalore, one of the cities on which so many jobs have been created there, IT buzz and Silicon Valley of India, but we have a huge water crisis there. I recently, about a couple of months back, read about why the water crisis in Bangalore had to happen. So going back about 4 centuries, Bangalore was in fact a very dry city like you find it today, not something that you would have seen maybe you were when you were younger and had gone visiting Bangalore, and a lot of greenery and all that was not there. But successive rulers of Bangalore and thereafter the Britishers, they developed an integrated canal system in Bangalore. Bangalore was built in step layer system where water would be conserved at the top layer and would be circulated through the connected canals across the city, and that was the reason why it was very fresh and green. But with rapid urbanization that came with the IT boom, the canals have of course disappeared, and that is why you are seeing what has happened today. So sustainability is not something that is that was not there before. In fact, we were very sustainable. The earth has existed for so long without all this technological innovation, but with sustainable practices. And talking about circular industrial economy issue, uh, today what is happening is around 95% of entire value of packaging that we see in all the goods that we consume globally is two things. One is plastic and the other is thermocol, and both of them are extremely damaging to the environment. They take more than 500 years to degenerate, and the loss by that single use of plastic or thermocol for packaging is about 120 billion US dollars a year. So we can just imagine what is happening in terms of waste that is being created, and that's a huge opportunity too. So if we were to find a solution to single use plastics, especially in the packaging and delivery segments, there could be a lot of savings for the earth. So we need to really deal with climate change and look at it as an opportunity for ensuring sustainable development and driving economic growth. Talking a lot about sustainability, the point is it a catchphrase or is it the need of an hour? Of course, a lot of people, naysayers may say that, it is something that we have brought upon ourselves, and that it's just a buzzword and, really nothing is happening on ground. But it is also true that if we don't look at it with a critical lens, we may end up being the victim of our own doing. So how did the sustainability buzz start? It started in 1987. That was the first of the official publications that came out through the United Nations. It was called as the Brundtland Report. Um, it is the first time that the sustainable development word was coined. It talks about sustainable development as development that meets the need of the present without compromising the ability of the future generations to meet their own needs. And that's where we are going wrong. So there is one theory around how much are we consuming, and there are many tools available online. Maybe you can just go and check. So there is this tool which tells you how much have you consumed compared to how much the earth can offer to you. As a humanity today, we are every day consuming 1.75 times the resources that the earth can offer. So actually we are living on 1.5 planet, and we have been able to do that because we have done a lot of innovation, a lot of technological practice, progress on production, on getting things we want, we need. Uh, but we have hardly done any progress on sustainable consumption. So from production to a sustainable consumption, the story has been a very sad one. Of course, therefore, it means that we need to develop a strategy that combines development and environment. And this is something that has come, like almost 40 years back. 1987 is almost 35 years from today. The UN had first brought this out. So what happened then? So nothing happened then, really. People started using the buzzwords, we need to do sustainability, we need to look at it. But ultimately, where the things ended as far as corporations were concerned, was to look at the bottom line and the profits and the growth, and the like the regulations in India and around the world really don't help it, because if you have to publish quarterly results with increasing top line and bottom line percentages every day, you would obviously start thinking of just those two numbers and nothing else. And then in 1998, an economist, John Elkington, came out and founded the first sustainability framework, the triple bottom line. I'm sure none of us are new to it. In fact, as students of cost and management accounting, we would have heard this in our syllabus in 1990s and early 2000s also. He said that the TBL, the triple bottom line, should consider social, environmental, and economic impact of the activities. And what does sustainable development mean? So, like, the previous UN report was, this also highlighted that we should not compromise the ability of future generations to meet their needs. Now, what happened from 1998? People started talking about triple bottom line in a very accounting way, in a very numeric way. It was not supposed to be an economic or an accounting tool. It was supposed to be a social tool. And the buzzwords kept growing: social return on investment. We all studied the full cost accounting, the shared value, the economic value added, and all of those fancy adages kept growing. And when invited in 2018 by Harvard Business Review, Elkington again emphasized that the TBL was not designed to be an accounting tool. It was supposed to provoke deeper thinking about capitalism and its future. So, the buzz, the typically of how we all have started thinking is very short term, is quarter to quarter, like I said, looking at numbers and looking at growth, looking at very short term achievements without thinking of really what is the impact of our activities over the longer period. So that brings us to the dilemma. Is sustainability attainable? Is it even, something that we can achieve? Is it ambiguous? How do we read sustainability? What has happened, especially in corporations and with this kind of, uh, 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 the achievement orientation of our leaders to get the best output, not get the best impact, is that we have started working in silos. We have started thinking of what are my sales, what is my output, what is my production, what is my target. We end up making key result areas year to year. Most of the years we keep repeating them with different percentages. And even the organizations, in some ways, I would rather call it out as some unhealthy practices, like giving a lead on what my results for the next year could be, and then you beat the street and you beat your projections. And this race has actually created very deep silo mindsets, because of which we find sustainability ambiguous, because individually we are not able to achieve our goals in a sustainable manner. We are all looking at numbers, we are all looking at what is the cost saved, what is the revenue earned. And the UN same report, said this, what I have put up on the slide, that the mandates, for example, even if you start at the macroeconomic level, when there is a planning going on in a ministry, the central economic and sectoral ministries talk about production and growth. But when the production growth targets are achieved, if there is an accompanying pollution, that is left to the environment ministry, which has the most minuscule of budgets. The electricity boards have been asked to produce power, but the acid pollution that they create is left to other bodies to cleanup. Taj is a classic case, the marble going yellow. So this is not something new, right? This was said in 1987, but even today, if you look at some functional heads or leaders in some of our organizations, they would end up thinking, what is it that I have to achieve? And that is why sustainability has become ambiguous to some. If you think as one individual, as a single contributor, but if you have to look at it at a wholesome level as an organization, it's absolutely unambiguous, and it's absolutely non-controversial and non-debatable that we have to look at sustainability in everything that we really do. Uh, Coming to the next part now, what is more important when we talk about sustainability? Are we talking governance or are we talking compliance? Governance, in fact, is something that has always been there, right? When, for example, I know of companies, one of which also I worked for, which had an audit committee or independent directors way back in 1980s, and there was absolutely no mandate at that time. There was no corporate governance framework. There was no requirement to act in a transparent manner, report your results, or stuff like that. It was a plain vanilla company law, plain vanilla accounting that was happening. But there was governance, there was no compliance. Cut to 2005, we came to a scene where we had this listing agreement. Companies got listed to create wealth for the public and for their promoters, and they had to comply with the one clause 49 on in the listing agreement, and appoint minimal number of independent directors, and that's how the trend started. Cut to 2015, SEBI came out with SEBI regulations. So governance eventually converts to compliance. At some point of time, what was voluntary has become a mandate as the number of companies grew, as we saw a lot of scandals. We'll not name them, we all know them. What has happened because of governance turning into compliance? The mindset has changed. What has happened proactively in terms of ethical concerns is now become a tick box exercise, and the back of the mind ringing that, oh, I have to also do this, but not at the top of the mind of the people who are governing our organizations, whether the independent directors are really independent, whether the auditors are really independent, are they really calling out things, and whether we are ourselves standing up to our own requirement of a well-governed regime and a well-governed company. So the case for governance is very simple. I really adore Ratan Tata. He has simply said it in one line that business has one great demand on you. If you need to yourself self-impose on yourself a framework of ethics, value, fairness, and objectivity. Now, how is this connected to sustainability? Obviously, because the case for sustainability is very strong today. We need to look at what is the thing that will minimize the damage that we are doing on the environment, on the society, on the community that we are working with, and on the consumption that we are doing, a very high level of uh, uh, luxury-based consumption rather than a need-based consumption that we are doing when we talk about sustainability. So it is something that has to come from within. It is not something that can be imposed on us by anyone or any regulatory body. But of course, like I said, governance ultimately, will end up moving to compliance, because we are seeing a spurt in the organizations, in the corporations across the world. There has been a lot of effort. You will see a conference of parties happening every quarter or every half year nearly, where all the countries are continuously meeting up and thinking of what we can do to minimize this damage, and that 1.5 degrees Celsius target has been agreed to. A lot of announcements have happened from the national government. In fact, India has signed up to 2070 as a net zero goal. There are many countries which are doing it earlier, many who are doing it later. And of course, the Indian government has aligned itself with all these reporting standards, and it has designed, SEBI has designed the business responsibility and sustainability reporting framework, under which the companies are now coming around and starting their reporting. In fact, you will see a lot of lenders, when we go for financing, ask us to show our sustainability compliance. So eventually, where companies were coming from in the voluntary space also they were doing, they are now by the ecosystem required to comply with many things, and that's how the case for compliance is also becoming stronger. So then if we have set the context of why we need model sustainability governance, let's move to how it can be built, really. When we talk about setting up sustainability practices across our organization, we have to look at a lot of things. First, like I said at the outset, why does an organization exist? Uh, is it only to provide resources to the community, to the consumer that it is catering to, or is it a higher purpose? This strategic alignment can be brought in only by the top management. What this needs is understanding how the business will be aligned to the national, the local, and the international priorities. Today, the international priority, the most important priority of the earth, is to limit the damage which has come through industrialization. And that's the reason why you see so much convergence on these topics, the discussion on these topics, the agreements that are happening. This shows that there is strategic alignment at an international level for sustainability. However, from macro, it is the role of each organization to bring it down to the micro level, and at the most minute microcosm level in the organization, to see that key sustainability topics that are relevant to business can be identified. For instance, if you are running a coal-fired power plant, can you stop it today in India? The answer is no. The demand for electricity is at its highest ever, in fact. And therefore, you will find I work for a power company, and so I can say that with surety, you'll find that the loading factors of these plants are at their highest levels today. So how do I be sustainable? An example of the plant that I work for is that we have been the first of the plants to set up a flue gas desulfurization unit. What does this do? This minimizes the SOx and the NOx emissions that come from coal-fired plants. This is what is I'm talking about, the strategic alignment, that you need to do business, but you need to find out how can you do it more sustainability? How can you do it with less damage? This prioritization will obviously flow from the top. But when we come to execution, it will have to flow down. And that's where the next important topic of accountability comes in. The whole organization has to be held responsible to drive the actions that are decided at a strategic level. When we talk about sustainable priorities, it's not just about the priority of the board, the priority of the promoter. It's about the priority of each one of us, because at the end of the day, it is impact that is having on each one of us. It will not only have damaging impact on us and our future generations if we don't look at it with an accountability sense, but honestly, we will not be doing our justice to the jobs that we do. For instance, taking ahead the same conversation on running a power plant, if the plant head is not aligned to what the board wants with respect to emissions, with respect to managing the sustainable objectives, if he is not held accountable for it, if people working at the plant are not taking accountability for it, it is going to be a very, very thin chance that the strategy of the board or of the organization will be actually implemented on ground. For example, very important part in strategic alignment with respect to sustainability is a safe working environment. In the social capital, it is absolutely important that we do not have any kind of safety issues. Let us take a case where there are safety policies, there are adequate SOPs in the organization to decide how a process would run. But if the worker who is working on ground will not be aligned to that particular strategy or to that particular SOP, he will end up harming his own self. This is a very dangerous combination where people at the bottom are not aware about what are organizational priorities. So accountability, how can we build it? It is through driving constantly what we want as an organization. Is it a safety first organization? Is it an environment first organization? Is it a people first organization? You will hear a lot of buzzwords, but these 2, 3 catchwords help conveying throughout the organization what the organization really stands for. That is where I am leading to the third point on this matrix, is the stakeholder relationships. It is very important to align all the stakeholders to your requirement. Let the people who are impacted by you know what is your priority. For example, you are an organization which is a promoter-led organization. The promoter has clear thought and approach about what his objective is, but it is left to him and the independent directors on the board or the executive directors in the management are not aligned to the promoter's vision, then it is hardly possible that that will be achieved. Likewise, if you're a professionally managed organization, your key stakeholders will be government, will be your shareholders, will be the community, will be the employees, will be very importantly your supply chain. Let us assume you are in a supply chain where you are manufacturing, say, for example, clothes. Now, when you're manufacturing clothes and you are sourcing cotton, you source organic cotton. To say, for example, say that you are a very, very, environmentally conscious companies. You might have heard of greenwashing, which is happening today. Organizations claim that they are doing ESG and their products are ESG friendly, sustainable products. But what happens in this example that I'm taking of manufacturing clothes? You are sourcing organic cotton, but do you know who was involved in manufacturing of that cotton? Was it a child labor? Was it a slave? There is a lot of slavery, adult slavery, even happening today in countries like Africa where cocoa beans and coffee is produced. You may be making the best of coffee here, but you may be sourcing it from Africa where actually a child labor has manufactured or produced that bean. That cannot be ESG. Again, taking the clothes example forward, you made the cloth, you bleached it, and when you bleach the cotton, there is a chemical discharge. What are you doing to treat that effluent? How can you say that a chemical discharge is environment friendly? If you move from production to distribution, you take it from one place to another. Transportation is a straightforward scope 3 effluent, which is impacting your ESG goals. And last place where the distribution, after distribution, where the consumption is happening, after consumption of clothes, do you know where your clothes end up? They end up in landfills. And the landfills are increasing by the day with absolutely no way how much waste we are generating every day. We are not even treating 10% of that waste on a daily basis. So even wearing a simple dress, a cotton shirt, is something that should make you think, am I doing sustainable? And that's where your stakeholder relations are very important. Your supply chain is very important. You need to be very conscious of the entire linear model through which your production line and distribution line is running, but you need to make it a circular thinking model so that each of the stakeholders interact with each other and try to minimize the impact of damage that is coming from your operations. And that's where the last thing, the last piece is very important. Everybody needs to proactively look at it to find out what are the business opportunities from sustainable practices. I'm quite sure and very optimistic that if we can actually make, we can start consuming 1.75 times of Earth's resources every day and do that much innovation in production and consumption, we can also do innovation in sustainable practices. So business opportunities, like I pointed out earlier, a lot of business opportunities are even coming from even simply setting up clean energy companies. So this kind of opportunity is something that every organization should look for when they are setting up their sustainability priorities. Now, so which areas would you consider? I have just put up certain material topics that in my organization we have evolved. There can be a lot of material topics. You'll find a lot of external advisory firms who help you with identifying this. There is actually a detailed process that runs for identifying these material topics. So when you're looking at sustainability governance, the first thing you need to do, like I pointed out in my previous slide, is to engage with your stakeholders and to find out from them what is the impact of your operations. Where are you going to bucket the activities that are creating changes to the different areas that you are engaging with? For example, in social capital, community engagement. Now, this is the most basic thing that you can do. Like, I again will take a power sector example, have been working with a power company for too long. We are in the business of setting up solar and wind power projects. Now, whenever I have to set up a solar power project, the first thing I would need is to acquire land. And when there is land, there are project affected people. You have to engage with the community that is getting impacted by your operations to understand what are their concerns and redress them. It's not possible to stop growth, but it's always possible to grow together. That's the important message that you have to give to your community. I'm taking just one example from each of this. Human capital, employee engagement, safety. These are very, very critical points. You will hear a lot about DEI, also diversity, equity, and inclusion. We are engaging a lot in terms of, all the companies are engaging a lot in terms of finding out how board diversity is captured. SEBI has mandated appointment, for example, of women directors on the board. So there are a lot of steps taken to improve DE and I. Likewise, when we are talking about natural capital, what is it that is getting impacted? Are you creating emissions? Are you impacting biodiversity? What is your fresh water consumption? How are you conserving water? And most importantly, how are you managing your discharge and your waste? These are the material topics in your natural capital section. In intellectual capital, risk management and digital transformation are the buzzwords today. So these are just, like I said, these are just examples. You need to engage with your stakeholders to find out where is the impact of your operations and determine your material topics, and then set up an entire governance framework. So there are two approaches to set up this governance framework. I have titled this slide as Think E or S through G. So that's very important. Unless you have a proper governance framework in place, you may not be able to achieve all your ESG goals. So what do? In the bottom-up approach, you start with a cross-function team. You create a team of all your function heads which has adequate representation of environment. Say, for example, people who are involved in manufacturing or production, of social, your head of HR, your head of CSR, people who work with safety. These will come in S. And lastly, governance, which will be your head of finance, head of secretarial. This entire cross-functional team should be adequately empowered. What I mean by empowered is that they should have a sense of what is happening on ground with respect to the impact of companies' operations. But apart from having the sense, they should have adequate power to change what needs to be done. So, thinking ESG or thinking sustainability is important in terms of redoing everything, unlearning everything and redoing everything. What we have done in my organization is we have gone through all our processes, looked at it with critical lens of how we can change, what we can do right. And this kind of a cross-function team has to develop that common interest or common goal in doing what is right. This is not obviously an overnight job. It does take a lot of time. There is no revolution here. There is only evolution. And this culture has to be percolated throughout the organization, where people start thinking impact and not just outcome. Like I highlighted in my previous slide, this team has to come together to identify those material topics. In fact, if any one of you is looking at it, there are organizations, there are consultants that help you do it. They have a lot of conversations with all your stakeholders, with your suppliers, with your community, and then they find these out. There is CII also, which helps in this. And then what you do once you have your material topics, gradually, like I said, it's done over a period of time. The next step is to do a materiality, double materiality assessment. So what does a double materiality assessment really mean? It means that when you're considering environment or social parts of your business, or impact of operations, you are also considering the financial impact. A simple example is, say, for a physical risk. When you have your assets at remote location, say you set up a offshore wind power plant, the wind turbine is right in the middle of the sea. Obviously it will be exposed to a lot of environmental hazards, the winds, the salt, a lot of things that happen, in the nature, like tornadoes, etc. There will be a lot of impact, physical impact of that. When you are doing a physical risk assessment for this kind of a business, you don't think about just what happens when, when a hurricane happens, the wind turbine will fall. That is a simple physical risk assessment. But when you do a financial risk assessment of the same event, you kind of, what is the insurance that you have taken for that? How will you protect your business financially from that loss? So climate change is inevitable, but the physical risk assessment, the financial assessment of that risk, understanding the transition risks when you are moving from from a business which contributes high carbon to becoming a more sustainable business, contributing lesser carbon or contributing lesser to the negative impact of your operations in terms of whether social impact, or whether, say for example, in an incense making company, agarbatti ki company, what do? There is a lot of women labor involved. Now when women are hired, you will see a lot of women who are, they are malnutritioned, or they are pregnant, and then they are working in very, very difficult conditions. What do you do for them? So the point is, physical risk assessment has told you, yeah, the problem is malnutrition in your women labor. But what do you do financially for them? So you set up, say for example, a creche, or you set up a facility for them where, they will be given food in the company. Now these kind of which will help increase their productivity is what is double materiality assessment all about. And it's a very critical milestone journey, primarily because it will help. And when I say all the processes, it literally means starting from the very basic to going on. I'll talk about that in my future further slides on what you can really look at and how you can make a start. Now, the second approach to thinking E or S through G, we just saw the bottom size, your scale of operations. You have to have a sense of that and then start with a single or a two-layer committee, which is a board level committee or an executive level committee. Now, what happens in this case? In the previous case, you had people who were actually working on ground build your sustainability goals. In this case, you have the people at the top determining your sustainability strategy. So there are a lot of geopolitical, international, national, local issues. There is a lot of requirement, like I said before, to align the stakeholders, which the top management has access to. And this committee or this board level or an executive top executive level committee is what will then drive the sustainability strategy through various parts of the organization by making a 3 to 5 years roadmap and guiding the management and the implementation team. This may also involve when on ground things are not going right, helping the team which is making the implementation to do contextual changes. But this top down approach the main positive or the main benefit is that the sustainability vision is not lost. What happens sometimes in the bottom up approach, like I said previously, we all are so aligned to what we have to achieve, what is our key result area, what is our key priority area, that we sometimes lose the vision of the organization. And that bottom up approach is therefore, to that extent, it can dilute your sustainability effort. But the top down, the management commitment will ensure that you stay with your sustainability vision and on the sustainability path. So from here, let's move to some case studies. I have just picked up a couple, and then I will be running you through what we do in our organization. This is Startup Hours. You will see they have, like I pointed out, a top-down approach. They have a sustainability governance structure at the top, which their apex leadership helms. Then they have their SBU heads, which actually look at all the initiatives and implement it. They have a dedicated corporate sustainability team. Now, this is something which is very important. When you are setting up your governance structure for sustainability, make sure you have a head of sustainability, or you have a, even if it is a thin, team, it is very important to give visibility to sustainability in the organization. What it helps is, like I said, we all look at manufacturing or all our processes in a very linear fashion, because of which we lose sight. A production guy is thinking only production, a sales guy is thinking only sales. So who will marry the production guy to the sales guy and their efforts? It is this sustainability head or the sustainability team which helps giving a circular view, bringing a view and the house of what the whole larger organization purposes. So investment in a corporate sustainability team can really help. And then they have at each of their locations sustainability champions, they say, or sustainability spokes, who are actually driving all the efforts on ground, be it from the CSR sector, side of the organization, the environment side, the HR side. And this is a very, very standard, a very, very good model of how a sustainability governance structure should look like. But because Startup Our scale is very high, I have taken one more info, from the non-manufacturing sector. I have taken an example of Infosys. Now, what Infosys does is, looking at, basically they have, their capital is human beings. Their capital is all the engineers that work for them. So for them, it is very important. The S side of the, ESG is very important. So they have actually empowered their ESG committee to work on digital skilling, diversity and inclusion, facilitating employee wellness and experience, and delivering technology which can help leverage, they're leveraging the technology for energizing their communities. Now, so basically this ESG committee is the committee which oversees their ESG efforts, and the ESG council, which is on ground, actually reports, actually executes their programs. And they have also, in fact, to bind the whole organization as one, outlined their Infosys ESG Vision 2030, which is very clear 10-year roadmap of what they want to do in the ESG space. Like I said, I have learned a lot on sustainability governance at the organization I currently work in, and that's Apraava Energy. We are an independent power producer in conventional and renewable transmission and in distribution in smart meters. How we have achieved this over the past 4 years. So we really actually, honestly, we have the leverage of our very good shareholders who have very committed sustainability frameworks. Always sustainability was at the top of the mind and heart in our operations. Since last 15 years, Apraava has not done any single rupee investment in carbon emitting assets. We are doing only renewable. But that vision, how do we align it to what people are doing on ground? And therefore, what we started was, in fact, doing the second thing first, which is have a management level sustainability committee. It was led by the managing director. The sustainability government committee had all the functional heads, and it actually set up the sustainability principles of our business and operations, and started asking the difficult questions of how the operations are impacting the ESG domains and allocating budgets for making sure that things start running on ground. So this sustainability committee initiative was also making a sustainability policy and creating a sustainability working group. Now, this is the working group that I've been talking about in the bottom-up approach. This group is actually a collective body of the various function heads of various departments, and also importantly spread across all locations. For a company like ours, which has presence in nearly 17, 18 states, we have wind farms at very remote locations, solar plants, we have a thermal plant, we have transmission lines right up in the northeast. We really need to bring together all of this and assimilate, like I said, that value of doing everything in a sustainable manner. So this sustainability working group meets on a monthly basis. We craft our goals, ESG goals. We make our strategic action plans. We put these plans up to the sustainability committee, the management level sustainability committee, for approval. And we also keep studying the latest trends on reporting, on compliance, on activities that are happening on ground with respect to, say, for example, how do we make sure that, at the end of our life of our turbines, what are we going to do with it? There is a group study which is going on right from today, maybe to think about it 5 year or 10 year down the line. So that's what the role of sustainability working group was. And when these two had actually started working in tandem, we set up, despite being a private limited company, a dedicated CSR and sustainability committee. We expanded the scope of our CSR committee and then brought in the board level intervention, which actually approved our final sustainability policy and today approves annual sustainability budget, strategic plans. It provides regular updates to the board on what our sustainability initiatives are, and it studies whatever the management level sustainability committee presents and keeps aligning our actions to their vision. That's the most important role of the CSR and sustainability committee. So this is how the sustainability governance at Apraava pans today. So having delved enough into how you can set up a sustainability governance company, let's see where we can make a start, for organizations that have not been doing anything. How shall we take it forward? So obviously make a start at board level, if you have a board, that is, by ensuring diversity, bring in transparency, establish in your organization that the only way to work is by doing things right. Evolve your policy making process, like you have to set up your anti-bribery, anti-corruption policies, your CSR policies, see in which areas your community has to be engaged and develop your CSR policy accordingly. Seep it into the corporate culture. In governance, it is very critical to have separation between the position of the chairman of the board, the chairman of NRC, and the chairman of the sustainability committee, as well as the CEO, because CEO is involved in day-to-day affairs, the managing director, for example, and would not be able to look at it as a neutral lens because he's right in the middle of activity. So if there is a board chairman who is, a separate individual, he will be able to drive the vision of the organization through the board in a fairly neutral manner. And a very important and very evolving part of this board level sustainability practice is to ensure that executive remuneration is linked not just to balance sheet numbers, but also linked to the KPIs which are non-financial. For example, start evaluating your managing director or your functional team, head of functions, on what are the safety metrics that have been achieved. Have you ensured zero fatality? Have you ensured zero lost time injuries? Have you kind of, ensured that apart from achieving your growth targets, your employee well-being is being taken care of? So these are the areas where you will start linking executive remuneration to overall goals. In fact, one of the other parameters that most large companies have today is that they ask the management and the company to take ESG rating. When you take an ESG rating, you actually do a gap assessment. You find out which areas need more intervention. And based on the ESG rating, they have started evaluating or deciding the variable compensation of their leaders. So make a start at the board by looking at these kind of practices. Make a start at the shop floor. How do you do? What do you do at the shop floor? In my previous part of my presentation, I said 95% of packaging cost is lost in single use, 120 billion US dollars a year. When you start, please look at packaging. Can we change that? Can we make it more sustainable? Check your supply chain, align your partners, let them also be sustainable. So your scope 3 emissions, your scope 2 emissions will be minimized. Start rethinking the processes. For example, simple, on a shop floor, you will have employees who will be sweating. Don't use wipes, use towels. You will be having leakages of oil and things like that. Don't use absorbents which are one time use. You use reusable mats for oil absorption and fuel absorption. Design a good waste disposal program. It's very critical. Waste is something that is occupying nearly 1% of our land today, and we have only 30% of land to live in, honestly. And think life cycle and don't think linear. Don't think production, don't think my floor and not the other floor. Think about it as a whole unit. What do you do in your office? Have carpools, buses for employees. You would know that employee traveling is a scope 3 emission. So try to minimize employees who bring their own vehicles. Digitalize, go paperless, have energy efficient electrical fittings like LEDs, have a good e-waste management program. Make sure that you have licensed vendors who are taking up your e-waste and giving you certificates after e-waste is handled. For waste management, ensure that you kind of bucket your dry waste, your e-waste, and your wet waste separately. And very important, in many offices, we see a lot of old cars, furnitures, electricals, which are just put in some kind of a warehouse or a store aside, ki abhi kuch kaam ka nahi hai. Just upcycle them, sell it to your employees, give it second hand to people who are working. There can be very low cost value items which you can also give to your housekeeping staff, your contract staff. So keep upcycling things so that they can be reused and they will not be just lying to waste. At plants or at sites, start thinking, how will you replenish what you are taking? Think forests, biodiversity. Very rich practice today is to do your biodiversity assessment and to replenish that. Do a wetland project at your plant. You can use excess land for setting up, some a conservation park for your animals, or say, for example, setting up a solar power plant for your consumption, in-house consumption. So start thinking what you can replenish and how you can minimize the impact of your operations. Like I said, check your emissions and your effluents and work with the community, which is the project affected people, on a continuous basis. How do you start in your canteens and cafeterias? Your ensure that obviously there should be no bottled water. There cannot be any single-use plastic. Plastic is the very core of where the damage to the earth has started at the highest level. So eliminate plastics, not just in your organizations. Honestly, please eliminate that in your daily use. Use reusable wash clothes and towels or hand dryers instead of paper napkins. Don't have paper and plastic mugs for tea, coffee. Have dedicated mugs that employees can bring and keep in the office. And very important, when you're ordering for office, order in bulk so that repetitive refilling and bringing and transport expense as well as emission can be minimized. What do you do with the community? You work with them on long-term and sustainable infrastructure programs. Please design your CSR well. I have seen a lot of companies do CSR by distributing umbrellas when it is raining, by distributing books for students, by giving one-time benefits. What I mean, what you need to do is to really invest in improving the livelihood of people there. I'd just like to again quote an example from what one of our very good initiatives is. We've set up a Jai Jawan Raksha Academy in Haryana. You'll see a lot of people in that side kind of going forward and doing, army training or physical sports training. So this academy actually trains students, young children, to give government exams, army exams, it has a good facility for physical development of the student, as well as teachers, which actually teach them how to give those entrance exam, teaching them math, logical reasoning, English, or the local language in which they have to give the exam. So design your CSR well. Don't look at giving freebies and one-time things which will ultimately add to the overall only consumption pattern, but will not help them on a sustainable livelihood development. Very important next point, do a human rights due diligence across your supply chain. You may be doing all the things right, but if you don't ensure where your things come from, they are doing the right thing, they are not engaging child labor, they are not engaging malnutrition women in their work, they are making sure that their workers are safe, then your contribution to sustainable development is incomplete. So human rights due diligence is something which is very critical. Encourage diversity, inclusion, employee volunteering, very good projects employees can take up, like beach cleaning and all of that. Donation drives, like I said, upcycle everything old. So this kind of brings together all old clothes, books, and very important, benchmark your wages and pay fair. So your employees are determined to achieve your goals. And with this, I come to my final thoughts. Of course, there is no one way to get all your sustainable goals right. It's a multi-systemic approach. You have to ensure that you make painful choices. It is going to be difficult, because when you look at numbers, you will want to find a supplier which is giving a raw material at the least cost, right? That's the objective. But when you look at sustainable, you will find a supplier who meets your value system, and that may not be the cheapest one. So these are painful choices that management has to do every day, every time. But in the interest of the planet, we must do something which is not easy, so that we can hand out to future generations what we got from our forefathers. With this, I end my presentation. I can be reached at shivangi.rajpopat@aprava.com. I do hope that you all had a good understanding of what my topic for the day was, and I have contributed to some extent to setting up sustainability goals in your organization. Thank you so much.
Thank you, madam, for the exhaustive presentation, and I hope the session was from a practical sense, and also that, as you have said, that we should protect our environment, we should have proper policies, we should have the ESG aspect embedded in our system, so that all the good practices are followed in proper manner, and each company should do their waste management, should do their best practices, so that the world is a better place in the coming days. With this, I think we would be closing today's session. Before that, I request our CMA, Dr. Aditi Dasgupta, Joint Director of SSB. She is contributing a lot in our newsletter, Superi Bhavantu, to give a formal vote of thanks. Over to you, Aditi.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, ma'am, for such a wonderful presentation. Before we wrap up, just to remind you all that our 12th webinar would be on funding sustainability measures through bonds, and it would be led by Ms. Usha Ganapati Subramaniam, and it would be on 12th of July. Then we would be having our next webinar on IFSC and sustainability on 26th of July, led by Shri Pradeep Ramakrishnan. He is the Executive Director, IFSC. After that, on 9th of August, we would be having our 14th edition of the webinar on investing in sustainable projects. And it would be led by Shri Atul Jule. And on 23rd of August, we would be having our 15th webinar on learn to live a sustainable professional life, and it would be with our guest speaker, CMA Dr. Joffy George. With this, we have come to the end of this webinar. I would like to thank CMA Shri Ashwinji Dalwadi sir President ICMAI, CMA Shri Bibi Nayak sir, Vice President ICMAI, and CMA Dr. Ashish Pithatte sir, Chairman SSP, and all the board members of the Sustainability Standard Board for their continuous support and help. I would also like to thank CMA Dr. Dipendu Roy, our Secretary of the SSB and Additional Director ICMAI, for his motivation and support. With this, we have come to end. Have a good day. Thank you, sir.